Medieval hygiene is a subject shrouded in myth, misunderstanding, and surprising revelations. For centuries, the Middle Ages have been portrayed as a time of filth, bad smells, and unsanitary conditions. However, as we dig deeper into historical records, archaeological findings, and contemporary writings, a far more complex picture of cleanliness in medieval society emerges. In this video, we will peel back the layers of myth and examine what daily life was really like when it came to personal and public hygiene in the Middle Ages. We will explore how medieval people approached cleanliness, the tools they used, the role of religion and social class, and even how these practices influenced modern attitudes toward sanitation. Join us as we journey through dusty streets, bustling bathhouses, and secluded monasteries to uncover the shocking truth about medieval hygiene. Was the Middle Ages really as grimy as popular culture suggests? Or did medieval society have its own sophisticated methods for maintaining cleanliness? Let's dive in and find out. The concept of cleanliness in the Middle Ages. In medieval Europe, the idea of cleanliness was deeply intertwined with both social customs and cultural values. Unlike the modern obsession with daily showers and sterilized environments, medieval people had their own standards and routines that were suited to the world they lived in. Cleanliness was not merely about appearance, it was a marker of one's social status and moral standing. Medieval literature, art, and even legal documents reveal that many individuals took great pride in personal grooming. Wealthy citizens often had access to a variety of grooming tools and frequented communal bathhouses, while even the common folk had practices to maintain their personal hygiene. Despite the challenges posed by limited water supply and rudimentary sanitation, medieval society developed a range of practices to combat dirt and odor. Religion played a significant role in shaping medieval ideas about cleanliness. The Church, which dominated much of European life, often linked physical purity with spiritual purity. Ritual washing, confession, and other acts of purification were common practices that reinforced the connection between a clean body and a clean soul. At the same time, however, the medieval mindset was complex. While the Church promoted the idea of bodily cleanliness as a virtue, it also warned against vanity and the overindulgence in physical pleasures. This duality is evident in many religious texts, where physical cleanliness is lauded as part of a pious lifestyle, yet excessive concern with appearance could be seen as a distraction from spiritual matters. Personal hygiene practices. For the medieval man or woman, daily routines were far different from our modern practices. While the concept of a daily shower was not universal, medieval people did engage in regular cleaning rituals. Washing hands and face, combing hair, and changing clothing were integral parts of one's daily life. In many parts of Europe, water was not a scarce resource, and people often bathed in rivers, streams, or communal washhouses. Medieval texts and recipes even mention early forms of soap, often made from animal fats and lye, which were used for washing clothes and, in some cases, for personal bathing. Herbal infusions, made from rosemary, lavender, or thyme, were popular as natural deodorants and were sometimes added to bathing water. For many, maintaining a good appearance was a way of demonstrating respectability and moral rectitude. The tools of medieval hygiene may seem rudimentary by today's standards, but they were quite effective within the context of their time. Basic implements such as combs, brushes, and simple knives were commonly used for personal grooming. Soap, although not widely available to the lower classes, was produced in certain regions and used by those who could afford it. In some parts of Europe, guilds even regulated soap production, ensuring a certain standard of quality. Access to water was crucial for maintaining hygiene. In many medieval towns, wells, pumps, and public fountains were common features. Some cities built elaborate aqueducts and water channels to bring fresh water into urban areas, underscoring the importance of cleanliness in public health. Even in rural areas, local streams and ponds provided the necessary water for daily cleaning and laundering. Public bathing and communal facilities. Contrary to popular belief, bathhouses were a common and respected feature of medieval urban life. In cities across Europe, public bathhouses served as centers for socialization, relaxation, and, importantly, hygiene. These facilities, often sponsored by municipal authorities or religious institutions, provided space where people could bathe, receive massages, and even socialize with friends and neighbors. Bathhouses were not only places to cleanse the body, they were cultural hubs where news was exchanged and social ties were strengthened. Many accounts from the period describe the communal bathing experience in glowing terms, emphasizing the pleasure and social importance of regular bathing. In some cities, elaborate bath complexes featured multiple rooms with varying temperatures, steam rooms, and even exercise areas. While urban centers boasted sophisticated public bathing facilities, the experience in rural areas was quite different. In the countryside, people relied on natural water sources such as rivers, lakes, and rainwater collection systems. Rural dwellers often bathed in open air or used simple washhouses built near communal wells. Despite these differences, both urban and rural populations understood the importance of cleanliness. In many villages, community gatherings sometimes included collective washing rituals or festivals celebrating the arrival of rain and the renewal of water supplies. These practices highlight that, regardless of location, hygiene was a shared cultural value that transcended the urban-rural divide. Medieval medical knowledge and its impact on hygiene. Medieval medical practices were heavily influenced by the classical traditions of Greece and Rome. Ancient texts on medicine and hygiene were studied and preserved in monastic libraries, and they shaped the understanding of bodily health throughout the Middle Ages. Works by Hippocrates and Galen, for instance, provided a framework for the balance of the four humors, a theory that linked bodily fluids with health and temperament. This classical heritage informed many of the hygiene practices adopted during the medieval period. Concepts such as the importance of regular bathing, the use of herbal remedies, and the need for a balanced diet were all derived from ancient sources. While some ideas have since been discarded by modern science, their influence on medieval life was profound. The theory of the four humors, blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile, dominated medieval medical thought. According to this theory, health depended on the proper balance of these fluids, and illness resulted from an imbalance. Personal hygiene was seen as one way to maintain this equilibrium, and bathing was recommended to help restore balance when the body was out of harmony. Medical texts from the period prescribed various regimens for cleansing and purifying the body. These often included recommendations for specific types of baths, the use of herbal concoctions, and dietary adjustments. Although the underlying theory may seem archaic today, it provided a rationale for many hygiene practices and encouraged a culture of cleanliness that had real, beneficial outcomes for public health. The Middle Ages were no strangers to disease, and hygiene was often directly linked to the prevention of epidemics. Although medical understanding was limited by today's standards, communities recognized that cleanliness could help stave off illness. During outbreaks of plague and other contagious diseases, public authorities sometimes implemented measures aimed at improving sanitation, such as cleaning streets and enforcing quarantine measures. Myths and misconceptions about medieval cleanliness. For many years, the popular image of the Middle Ages has been one of squalor and filth. However, a closer examination of historical evidence reveals that this stereotype is largely a myth. Archaeological discoveries, contemporary accounts, and even court records demonstrate that medieval people took significant measures to keep themselves and their communities clean. In reality, many of the supposed filthy conditions attributed to the Middle Ages were exaggerated by later writers and propagandists. The notion that medieval society was uniformly dirty fails to account for the widespread use of public bathhouses, the importance of water in daily life, and the sophisticated methods of waste disposal that were implemented in many cities. When viewed in context, the evidence suggests that medieval hygiene was far more advanced than often assumed. Even if some medieval environments did suffer from poor sanitation by modern standards, the reality was mitigated by the widespread use of perfumes, spices, and herbal remedies. Fragrant substances were not only luxury items for the wealthy but also practical tools for masking unpleasant odors. People routinely carried sachets of herbs like lavender, rosemary, and thyme, which served both a medicinal purpose and helped to maintain a sense of personal freshness. Hygiene, social class, and daily life. While there were commonalities in hygiene practices across medieval society, social class played a significant role in determining one's access to the best tools and facilities for cleanliness. The nobility and wealthy merchants often enjoyed regular bathing in private bathhouses or elaborate estates with running water and dedicated washrooms. Their access to imported soaps, fine perfumes, and quality textiles further set them apart as paragons of cleanliness and refinement. In contrast, the peasantry, though often resourceful in using natural water sources, had more limited access to luxury hygiene products. Nevertheless, even among the lower classes, maintaining personal cleanliness was a practical necessity and a point of pride. Simple yet effective methods, such as using herbal infusions for washing or communal washing events, helped to mitigate the challenges of daily life. Cleanliness in the Middle Ages was more than just a health measure, it was also a marker of social status. The way one presented oneself, from the condition of one's clothing to the use of personal grooming products, communicated a wealth of information about one's standing in society. In many medieval texts, a well-groomed appearance was associated with moral virtue and disciplined character, while dishevelment or uncleanliness was often portrayed as a sign of moral or social decay. This association between hygiene and social order meant that even those with limited resources strove to maintain a respectable level of cleanliness. Festivals, religious ceremonies, and public gatherings were occasions when personal appearance was scrutinized, reinforcing the cultural importance of a clean body and neat attire. The transition from medieval to early modern hygiene. As Europe moved toward the end of the medieval period, improvements in water infrastructure and public sanitation began to reshape everyday life. The construction of aqueducts, more sophisticated drainage systems, and public fountains in emerging urban centers marked a shift in the availability and quality of water. These advances made it possible for cities to support larger populations while maintaining better hygiene standards. Local governments increasingly recognized that investing in sanitation was essential for preventing disease and promoting public welfare. While these improvements were gradual and uneven, they laid the foundation for the dramatic public health reforms of the early modern period. The intellectual and cultural movements of the Renaissance and Enlightenment brought new perspectives to the importance of science, reason, and the human body. As medical knowledge advanced and the scientific method began to take hold, traditional practices were re-examined and refined. Hygiene, once seen largely as a matter of custom and tradition, came to be understood as a crucial component of public health and personal well-being. Writings on anatomy, medicine, and chemistry started to influence everyday practices. The use of distilled water, improved soap formulas, and more systematic approaches to waste management all began to appear in texts from this transitional period. The result was a gradual transformation of hygiene practices that would eventually culminate in the modern era. The legacy of medieval hygiene in modern times. Today, the myths of medieval filth persist in popular culture, yet a careful study of historical records reveals a far more nuanced picture. Medieval hygiene practices, though imperfect by modern standards, were adapted to the realities of their time and often reflected a deep concern for health, morality, and social order. Modern historians and archaeologists have worked to dispel many of the myths surrounding medieval cleanliness, highlighting the ingenuity and resourcefulness of past societies. These lessons remind us that hygiene is not solely a product of modern technology but has been an evolving aspect of human culture. The innovations and practices developed during the Middle Ages laid the groundwork for later advances, and they continue to offer insights into the relationship between culture, health, and the environment. While many aspects of modern hygiene have changed dramatically with the advent of industrialization and digital technology, the medieval period still influences our cultural perceptions of cleanliness. The rituals of daily washing, the communal nature of public baths, and even the symbolic associations between purity and morality have deep historical roots. Understanding these origins can help us appreciate the evolution of public health and the continuous human quest for a cleaner, healthier life. The journey through medieval hygiene reveals a world that is far more complex and fascinating than the simplistic image of perpetual grime that has often been portrayed. Far from being a period of unrelenting filth, the Middle Ages saw the development of sophisticated practices and social customs centered around cleanliness and public health. From the use of herbal remedies and early soaps to the bustling bathhouses that doubled as social hubs, medieval society had its own vibrant approach to hygiene, one that balanced practicality, morality, and even aesthetics. By examining the daily routines, public facilities, medical theories, and cultural attitudes of the time, we uncover a legacy that challenges modern assumptions and offers valuable lessons for today. Medieval hygiene, with all its innovations and idiosyncrasies, reminds us that cleanliness is not merely a modern obsession but a timeless human pursuit. A pursuit that has shaped societies across centuries. If this exploration into medieval hygiene has intrigued you and challenged your preconceptions about the past, please like, share, and subscribe to History Facts and Mysteries. By revisiting these lesser-known aspects of history, we not only gain a richer understanding of our collective heritage but also learn how the challenges of yesterday can inform the progress of tomorrow.